Again to our first day of our virtual Global Connected Aircraft Summit titled Cabin Chats. Again, I hope you enjoyed the sessions we've had so far today, and also the round tables, and a big thank you for everyone who took part in them. We'd once again like to thank our sponsors for Cabin Chats, Collins Aerospace, Intelsat and Smart Sky for their support of this event. It's really, really appreciated. We now have a great session to close the day for you. It's titled Enabling a Connected End-to-End Journey for Passengers. A real thought-provoking presentation, which I think will interest us all, both professionally and personally. So I'd like to hand over to our presenter, Robert Sapitovich, Director of Marketing for Collins Aerospace.
Great, and thank you very much for having us present probably a little bit different topic to this conference, but we're all travelers, so I think everyone will probably see some things that will hopefully make you feel better about coming back to travel as that starts happening. As most companies in aerospace and defense, we are trying to work hard on developing solutions to restore passenger confidence. So I wanted to start with kind of a high-level slide to let you know that we're looking at kind of the end-to-end journey for a passenger. So we recognized early in the pandemic that things will have to be different when we come out of it. We have a large group that works on solutions for airports. So most of this presentation will be about the journey through the airport and some of the new technologies and concepts that are being looked at to help the passenger and help the operation of the airport post-COVID. But equally, Collins Aerospace does a lot of work on interiors of aircraft. And we know that, you know, the passenger's confidence will be equally important to restore getting back onto an aircraft. So our interiors group, as well as our powers and controls group who work on air management systems for aircraft, are doing a lot of excellent research and excellent development of new solutions to improve the onboard experience. Because we do know that the entire journey is really going to have to all be strong. The weakest link will keep passengers from wanting to travel. So we're focused on all parts of the journey, from the airport that you would check into, to the aircraft and the flight, to the arrival at the next airport, and then back home again. So these are all the areas we're looking at. Today we're going to focus on the airport part of this. So what I wanted to talk about today was what we call the contactless airport journey. What's going on? You know, a lot of surveys of passengers have taken place since the pandemic broke out, of what they'll expect when they return to travel, and what are the new systems and solutions and processes that will be in place in the airport. And these are three of the kind of the focal areas that passengers have said in surveys that they expect things to be different, things to be better. They expect in the first that other passengers will be monitored, their health will be monitored in some way. So there'll be kind of an assurance that all your fellow travelers are as healthy as they need to be to travel. There'll be some applications for check-in and boarding and security that help the airport operate better, keep people, you know, scheduled to get through the airport in an efficient way. And I'll go through some solutions that are being looked at and some actual solutions that are being installed now at airports to make the actual the journey through the airport as seamless and easy and contactless as possible. And lastly, social distancing at airports. We're all getting used to being 6 feet apart. At airports, it's easier said than done in some airports. To expect that there'll be perfect social distancing is a challenge. And so we're looking to try to help airports and more importantly, passengers have new ways of social distancing while they're at the airport and new strategies to make that a little easier. So part of our main objectives is to reduce and eliminate transactions that passengers have to go through to get through the airport. We recognize that people have to check in or check a bag, go through security, go through the boarding gate. So we're working on solutions that makes that as simple and free of contact with other individuals as possible. But at the same time, enhancing the passenger experience. Passengers are going to be nervous and concerned about congestion. So giving them tools to help them know where congestion is. And we'll show you a couple examples of those types of solutions as well. In parts of the US, there are the ability to check in and actually drop your bag away from the airport. So if you've ever been to Disney World, you might have been on one of the cruise ships out of Florida. You had the ability the day of your departure to check in and to give them your bag in a secure way, and that then is processed to the airport, and it freed you up for the rest of the day. But we think these strategies are even more important now, and we'll go through that as well. And lastly, there's new technologies needed at airports. We talked about health screening, and there's temperature monitoring going on today, but we're going to share with you some other concepts that we think will improve the ability to help monitor passengers and keep the people that are truly the sickest away from traveling and minimize the problems we may have with other passengers. Collins has been installing airport systems for nearly 40 years. We have solutions for check-in. The second picture is a baggage drop solution in Dublin. We have pre-security gates, we have boarding gates and immigration systems. All of these systems help make the journey through the airport contactless, and we'll explain how that happens and how we're improving that. So some of the passenger-oriented solutions that we're working on today. We mentioned that this is a journey from when you leave your home to when you board the plane. And this graphic just kind of illustrates the most common steps that all passengers go through, but also wanted to explain some of the things we're doing to improve that. So we mentioned that there is a lot of contactless self-service solutions like kiosks and baggage drops. If you use them, you typically have to touch the kiosk. So we're trying to come up with strategies and technologies that allow you to use the kiosk and minimize your interaction with the kiosk. But all the self-service solutions at airports now are also meant to free you up and not have you to have to interact with the airport staff and the airline staff. And during post-COVID, people are going to be nervous about interacting with people, touching airport systems. So we think that the use of biometrics in conjunction with this allows passengers to enroll, get their identification, which becomes their facial image, use that to check in, to drop your bag, to get through security, to board a plane without having to exchange passports or boarding passes. So we really think that the use of biometrics, check-in and on self-service solutions will free you up, will make it document-free, it will reduce congestion. And so this is kind of the end-to-end contactless passenger journey that's already, many pieces of this are in place at airports today and can be enhanced through the use of biometrics. We mentioned being able to process your bag off airport. And we already offer this, I mentioned at Disney World and cruise ships, some convention centers, but we think more and more globally that this will become something more common, that you'll be able to take your bag to a centralized part of a city and drop it off the day of your travel. Or you'll be attending a convention at a convention center, and you'll be able to process your bag at the convention center. And as I mentioned, the bags are taken over securely, transported to the airport, and put into the processing system at the airport. But imagine that in the future state, that people will come to you to get your bags. You know, there'll be a baggage pickup service. So these are being researched. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but in the future, you may be completely free of having to take your bag to the airport. It may get picked up from your office. It may get picked up from your home. So these are all being researched and evaluated for potential concepts. But the existing solutions exist today. And I think cities are looking at this as a way to drive some of the traffic of the airport away from the airport, thus freeing up the airport for less congestion to get through the checkpoints. I mentioned that the kiosks that are so prevalent in airports today still require you to touch the screen. So we're working with some technology that very easily allows you to take your mobile phone, scan the barcode like you see on the screen there, and that gives you control over the kiosk on your mobile phone. So this was taking one of the weaker spots of the entire contactless journey through the airport and giving the passenger control over it on their own device. And then you'd be able to take that and operate the kiosk on your phone, standing in front of the kiosk without touching the screen, being able to check a bag, get a bag tag, change your seat. So we think these types of technologies, and we're in the process of trialing and implementing these in airports around the world, are simple, cost-effective ways to give some of the control back to the customer and allow them to get through the airport a little bit easier. And this is just a screenshot from what it looks like when you do take control of the kiosk. Again, what you see on the screen, you'll see on your phone. You'll be able to put your flight number in, put your reservation number in, do all the transactions you would. And again, it's a very low cost, easy to implement solution that works on existing systems. There's no new systems at the airport. You just have to implement this and allow for it, provide the barcode to the passenger, and allow them to easily access the kiosks without touching them. We mentioned health screening. And again, we think this is an important part of getting the passengers' confidence back to travel. If you were able to get into the airport and know that all the passengers that you're getting onto flights with have been screened and are as free from problems as possible, we think that's really going to improve passenger confidence and get people back to travel. There's temperature screening going on today. So you may see that in airports today. But we think temperature alone is not completely accurate and efficient enough to really screen for people that may have some serious problems, COVID, the flu. There's other biomarkers, and they're listed there: heart rate, saturated blood oxygen level, respiratory rate. And we're working on developing into our biometric camera a single sensor that is able to detect multiple biomarkers from a passenger as they go through the process of entering the airport. And again, the whole goal here is to just try to quickly and easily make sure people who are traveling are as healthy as they need to be to travel. And those people that end up having some issues that the screen detects may have to go through some secondary screening. We think that's probably a rapid COVID test in this case, but there's others, maybe more simple solutions coming out that will be implemented at the airport. Now, the debate is, who does this? You know, is this an airport's job to do this? Is it an airline's job? Is it the government? I think most people are looking at the government to probably do and take control of this part of a brand new process at the airport, because in the end, this is security. You really are trying to make the entire airport and the flights going out of that airport as safe and secure as possible. But the debate continues. We're working on technology to make this as accurate as possible. But there's always lines at airports. They're not lines, not today, but they're coming back. And when they do come back, are there simpler ways to reduce the congestion at the contact points, like security screening and boarding gates? And we think there's new applications that can be given to passengers that give them a reservation, a virtual queuing reservation to go through security. And in the example here, you'll be told what time and what security line to be, and it'll allow the airport to manage the passengers that are coming back, the growing number of passengers, spread them out, and again get as much of this real estate used for lessening the congestion and really allowing the passengers to get through these typically crowded areas of the airport in a more efficient way. But we also think that passengers are going to want more information. What's going on at the airport? Where is the congestion at the airport? And is there a least congested path that I could take from my check-in to my boarding gate? If there's multiple paths through the airport to get to the same boarding gate, what's the least congested one? So giving passengers information to, again, give them more control over knowing what's going on in the environment that's up ahead, we think is really part of what the future is going to require to get passengers' confidence back up and give them an efficient way to get through the airport. But we also think in the airport that digital signage, there's already digital signs today, but we think the ability to provide kind of in real time information about crowding at the airport, congestion at the airport, using digital signs. And the example we have here is perhaps you need to use the restroom before you get on your flight, and you see that the next restroom is congested. But if you provide them information that if you walk another 2 minutes, there'll be another restroom, and that one's not congested. So again, it's information to give to the passenger as they travel through the airport terminal to keep them safer and keep them more informed, get them to the boarding gate, and again, make them feel like they have control over their journey. But when you do land at the next airport, you're always wondering, how long is it going to be to get to my bag? You never really know if your bag will be the first out on the carousel or the last out on the carousel. So we're looking at technology and concepts that allow us to measure and monitor where all the bags are and be able to provide to the passengers as they get off the plane, maybe driven to their mobile phones, kind of a more accurate time to when their bags will come out on the carousel. So you don't have everyone coming off the flight, going down to baggage claim, and all standing around together, waiting for their bags. Maybe you have 20 minutes. Maybe you can stop at Starbucks. Maybe you can pick up a sandwich. You don't feel rushed to get there because you know when your bag's going to come out. So again, giving the passengers new information, more information, to really enable them to really predict what their journey is going to be like and give them control over that journey. So we know the passengers only half the equation. The operations of the airport is getting more complex. And so we're developing solutions. We talked about how to monitor the density of people at airports and provide that information to passengers, but equally the airport operators who are managing the resources of the airport are wanting to monitor the density and the congestion of the airport. So there's the same solutions that we would use to drive data and information to the passenger, we think can be provided to the operators of the airport so they can look out and look ahead and see where congestion is building, be more proactive about managing that. And again, keeping social distancing at a maximum at the various touch points through the airport, but giving them situational awareness to allow them to do that. And equally important in operating and managing the airport is keeping the resources of the airport as spread out as possible. The gates, the management of the gates, and allowing the aircraft to come in until the airport is full and every gate is full, being able to dynamically manage where the aircraft come in and depart, and keeping that spread out. And we mentioned baggage carousels, being able to keep flights coming in at the same time at carousels separated, every other carousel possibly being used, but using the resources of the airport, monitoring and managing them to, again, spread people out, spread flights out. You don't want to have two flights going out at adjoining gates. If you have multiple gates, and you can manage the airport, the inbound and the outbound aircraft. So we think, again, there's advanced tools that allow you to manage those resources and to help, again, spread people out, spread flights out, are really going to be a positive part of getting the airports back up and running. So kind of a summary. We talked of a lot of benefits to passengers. Again, the whole goal here is to get the confidence back to passengers, to let them know that things are being managed differently and better, and as much as possible, as efficiently as possible, to reduce their contact with other passengers, reduce their contact with airport staff, keep the congestion managed and monitored at all times, doing the health screening to keep the spread of pathogens at a minimum. And it really ends up improving the safety of the passengers in the future and really getting their confidence back. But as I mentioned, equally important, there's a lot of people that work at airports. So the benefits to the airports and the airlines and the government employees who work there, these solutions have to be easily deployed. It has to make the system more efficient. It has to be cost effective. The airports and airlines just don't have the money right now to be investing in a lot of brand new solutions. So the new solutions have to be easy to implement using the existing infrastructure of the airport. And in the end, it should help improve the safety of the staff. It should help with social distancing. And we don't think it requires a lot of regulatory approval. In some cases, it doesn't require any. And so the airports, the airline staff, the passengers will all benefit through the implementation of some of this new technology at the airport. And my last slide is really the industry is struggling and suffering, but passengers are slowly coming back. In different regions, they're coming back at different speeds. There will be full operations in the near future, but I think the challenge to all of us who operate in this space is to really work together to give the passengers and give the staff at the airport new ways of doing what was in the past a very simple procedure to get through the airport. We think biometrics is a key enabler in that. And we think that biometrics, which are already in place all over the world, can be expanded and, again, allow the passengers to easily get through the airport without having to pull out a boarding pass, without having to show identification. Your face for the day of travel is your identity. And we think that is a simple way, cost-effective way to expand a contactless journey through the airport. In the end, these have to be simple, cost-effective, and have a business case. We think that all of these solutions, except probably health screening, are going to make the airports of the future more efficient. So when the full passenger loads come back and people are traveling and the airports are once again full of passengers going on vacation, going on business trips, all of the solutions we talked about today are going to make it easier to get through the airport and make it simpler for the airport to process more passengers through the same footprint in a more efficient and safe manner. And then, and that we thank you for giving us the opportunity to share the story. We're all travelers. We're all looking forward to getting back to travel, and we appreciate the time and welcome questions.
Thank you, Robert. That was a fascinating presentation, actually, as I thought it was going to be. We do have some time for questions for Robert, if you've got some questions on the tech and how that could impact the end-to-end journey. While you're thinking of those questions, and I hope we get one or two, I'll ask one or two myself. Robert, you mentioned, paying for this technology. And you sort of talked about being more of a government thing. Have governments shown any inclination so far that they would actually be prepared to do this, that they see the value in this technology and they will help fund this by doing this with airports?
We do. We already see governments acting. We see trials starting up. We do see health screening beginning and governments looking at how to best implement those types of new solutions. We do see the use of biometrics. For instance, in the United States, this Customs and Border Patrol and TSA have been using the biometrics for boarding gates for international flights. So there is discussion and a lot of research going into taking that same technology and using it at the security screen. So you don't have to stop with an agent, show them your boarding pass, show them your identification. So other governments are already implementing these types of solutions. They all realize that they're part of the investment. They're one of the key stakeholders at airports. And to get the governments, get the airlines, get the airports all working together to, again, restore passenger confidence is the goal. And we're working with all of those groups to prioritize the things that can be done quickly and the things that'll take a little bit longer. But in the end, we'll bring the passengers back with more confidence.
You mentioned some trials have started. What is there anything that you can tell us about trials or any particular airport? Anything specific about that?
Sure. I mentioned taking control of the kiosk with your mobile phone. We have several airports right now implementing that solution. And again, it's a very simple implementation. It doesn't require a lot of investment. It's taking the existing kiosks and just giving them a way to connect the phone to them. We have that in trial in Asia. It's going into trial in Europe and in the United States. So again, it's an example of something that can be done right away to get, again, the passengers some ability to take at least that part of the journey and make it a contactless part of the journey. But there's trials and discussions all over the world, and technology is being tested, and I think we are rolling out simple, cost-effective solutions that get the travelers coming back. And there's other solutions coming, some of those concepts I mentioned, that we think will continue to provide more information to passengers and help improve the safety of the staff.
So when might we see, I mean, trials are going on, when might we see a major airport either in Europe, North America or Asia fully with these types of technologies? How far away are we from that scenario?
Some are already doing it. Like I said, we're implementing this particular solution. We're in discussions with dozens of airports about health screening, about really taking biometrics and expanding it greatly. Biometrics can be used throughout the airport. You know, any place that you need to show identification, you can use biometrics to make that kind of contactless and simpler. Contactless payment is a part of that as well. If you have an overweight bag or you go to duty free and you want to buy something at duty free, the solutions are available. It's just really getting them implemented at the airports. So we think that the use of biometrics and contactless payment and self-service solutions They're already underway. The trials are. People are deciding how far they can go. Funding is challenging because, again, airlines and airports haven't had passengers. Airports haven't had a lot of revenue coming in. So we're working with all of them to come up with, real significant ways to help them implement solutions now. But again, these solutions will help the airports when they return to full operation. So we think there is a good case, and governments are trying to help out in numerous places around the world.
Okay. If you've got any questions for Robert, we're virtually at the end of this session, but if you've got any final questions, please do so via the chat facility, and we'll get them across. I mean, it is sort of, it's fascinating stuff. Particularly when you mentioned about the health screening. Is that just going to become a part of everyday reality when you go to an airport? Are we going to sort of, I mean, that's something that maybe before the pandemic we were perhaps thinking was, I don't know, maybe a decade away or further. I mean, AI stuff, but are we, because of what's happened, that's going to become almost like a priority for airports?
That's a tough question. There has been health screening done in the past when some of the outbreaks in Asia occurred years ago. They were doing temperature checks in Asia at airports. I think so. I think people are going to be nervous for a while. We are looking at typical biomarkers for respiratory illnesses. So people are saying, I want to make sure there's no one with COVID traveling with me. But I think equally, you don't want to have somebody that has the flu traveling next to you either. So I think that there's going to be a different concern by passengers going into the future, and probably a willingness for people to go through screening to just improve the security and the safety of everyone around them. I think if you knew that everyone on the flight had been screened and doesn't show any signs of having any major problem, I think passengers will come back and be more confident about coming back.
I mean, it's interesting. It's not really a question, but I'm sure all of us that have traveled quite a lot have been sat next to the person that's had a really heavy cold and flu and sneezing. I mean, it's going to be a difficult one in the future, isn't it? To, whether they fly or not fly, or how you deal with that situation because of what's happened.
Well, I attended a conference, and one of the airport directors made a really interesting statement. He said people in Asia have been wearing masks on planes for a long time. And he said, maybe it's just going to be the norm. It's going to be just, proper social etiquette to while you're on a plane, wear a mask, And, I think there's going to be some reasonableness to this. But over the short term, I think there's just practicalities that people are expecting life to be different for a while, and we just need to adjust to it. And, the simple things like masks do matter, but is it the perfect solution for everything? No, but I think the expectations of everyone who are traveling has changed, and we all have to work together to make it better.
And just sort of one final question. I mean, this is obviously a very technology-focused event. Has there been a real pivot at Collins in terms of, these types of solutions, and I would say a renewed, because of obviously COVID, and accelerating and ramping up the products and solutions? Just tell us a little bit about, where Collins was at the start of the year, and
Sure.
how, and the philosophy and everything as you look to go forward.
At the start of the year, our airports business was helping airports who were overcrowded, who could not handle the passengers coming through them. Passenger growth was going through the roof. So the use of biometrics pre-COVID was really to help get more passengers through the same terminal footprint. We called that the seamless journey. Again, making people just be able to go from the front of the airport to the boarding gate as seamlessly and as quickly and easy as possible. It quickly became recognized that those same solutions helped enable a contactless journey and also a seamless, quick journey as well. So we think that the acceleration of those technologies that were already in place in different airports around the world is really going to improve the entire environment. So again, we're not starting from scratch. Airports and a lot of the companies that we compete against and work with are all out helping airports get back to a new normal. And again, it's not a complete reinvention of the airport. It's just using technology and some new innovation to make it as simple and easy as possible for the traveler.
Okay, well, I think I will leave it there. I want to thank you, Robert. That was a really interesting piece of content today, not just from a professional aspect, but also all of us that are dreaming of going on family vacations anytime soon. I want to thank all of our speakers today, moderators, roundtable hosts, and of course our audience this week for a great start to the week. Lots of great discussions, content. I really don't think we could have asked for more for an opening day. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Collins, Intelsat and Smart Sky, for their support of the event. It really is very much appreciated. Tomorrow, we absolutely have a ton of great content for you. I'm joining Intelsat for 2 fireside chats with both Air Canada and Aero Mexico. We also have a great panel, rather ironically, after this discussion on health and safety with speakers from Collins, L2 Aviation and GE. So we're absolutely loaded with great content tomorrow. So I hope you come and join us. We've had a great day and we look